Draken, that dude is a G, top G right there. Put a crown on his head, bro. That boy is top G, man.
Wake up to reality. Nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world. The longer you live, the more you will realize that the only things that truly exist in this reality are merely pain, suffering, and futility.
What up, anime people? We're back, Madra's Corner. We're gonna do a little bit different. We're gonna do what's our little speed recap, kind of give you a lot of info, still give you our ratings. We got episode 10, Tokyo Revengers, The Light of My Life. The pretty much we got on Takemichi, Hinata meeting up together, cliffhanger at the end. We talked about it a bit, why they're there, and surprisingly, they went right into it when we got onto the episode. We come to find out Mikey and Draken kind of got told to bring Takemichi there. Hinata basically ran into Emma at the shrine. She was praying there and basically told her about everything. Uh, Flashback of her running into her dad, figuring out that her dad's the reason why Takemichi broke up with her. And basically, she called Dragon, said, "Hey, you need to find Takemichi. We got to help fix this." And he was like, "I don't know where he's at. Like, I don't, it's Christmas. How the hell you want me to find him?" And of course, we get that instinct of Mikey where he's like, "Oh, well, let's head back. I think I know where he's at." That feeling I had that we saw in one of the past episodes with Mitsuya. He's like, "I know where he's probably with him." And so you kind of see a full circle of how Mikey and Dragon ended up at the chapel, where we saw Black Dragon kind of falter at the realm of the invincible Mikey. And then we get into, oh man, Takemichi crying like every episode. This one was so much crying. And I mean, he broke down. It was a nice moment, I did feel, where he could cry, letting everything out to Hinata. He was like,
Nah,
I'm
man. Not even Hinata was having it, bro. She said, "Come on,
gonna.
Takemichi, quit your crying, man."
But I mean, he let out like it's kind of, you're seeing that this season where it's kind of breaking him down. He can't hold it in. Like he already told
I already
Shifu
thought like he
about it.
couldn't hold it in season one either. So
Well, I know that, but he's wanting to tell him like, hey, like like even if you die and by a truck or you can't feel your legs and she's like, what are you talking about? but we all know where he's coming from and everything, and so she pretty much is like, hey, take me out on New Year's. We will forgive and forget about this that's happening, and you get that loving moment of that. But in between this, you start to like, there's a moment where Draken and Mikey are talking, and he is basically tells Mikey like he reminds you of him, and you don't really know who they're talking about. Mikey kind of does his little smile, and he's like, yeah, he does. And then it goes into a flashback of well, no, Mikey tells him, hey, let's go take a ride, Takemichi. And they take a ride, and they end up going to a place, and they're talking, and he tells him like, hey, you're like my brother, you're like my older brother. He's telling the story of his brother, of how he was like a father figure to him and his sister, how him and Emma had different parents, and how they just became a stronger family. And then he's like, you remind me of, him. He's like, he wasn't the best fighter. And we all know Takemichi's not the best fighter at all. He goes, but he was always like, he talked about it. It's always at heart, that will to never give up. And it seems like his brother is like, I guess, a reincarnation type of feeling with him, to in Mikey's eyes, of it a bit. And you see a flashback of his brother, and he's led, one of the toughest gangs in Tokyo. And all he said was, the only thing is, you're not a good fighter. You only like talking to girls. And how do you do it? And his brother's like, you don't understand yet. He goes, but he had this willpower to make people follow him. And you kind of see that with Takemichi right now. Like, everybody knows he's not the best fighter. But when, like, what did Draken say? He goes, when the chips are on the table, you can count on him. And that's one of the things of why he's made it to this point. And then Mikey basically tells him like, hey, I need you to be like my brother. And, when I'm losing myself, when I am, losing my way, because he said these words, I'm weak. he goes, "I need you to help me." And Takamichi was about to cry again at that moment, and then he kind of stopped himself and said, "Hey, I got you," and all that stuff. And so you're starting to see a bit of the where we know Mikey was leading to. Does he still lead there? Of Mikey's loss from the episode of the first episode of them talking about how what's it called, the gang ended up where they were at. And then you get a point of Draken and Mitsuya driving, and you end up seeing how they got close, which I didn't really realize they were that close until this episode. Um, and at first, I kind of was lost because they were like, "Oh, they left a cliffhanger also a little bit where they're like, at the next meeting on New Year's, we're going to talk about this." And Matsuya's, "Are you sure it's the right time? It's going to cause a lot of stuff, maybe." And they're like, "Yeah, of course. The two dragons are back." And so for me, at one point, I was like, "Well, maybe it's like Black Dragon and this," and then, but then you come to realize that when they were younger, they ended up meeting when they were younger, and Matsuya, he's been talking about his family a bit of how like he felt as a bad brother because he would leave his sisters, and he ended up going to the whorehouse of where Draken lived at, and which we all know. And he's like, "This is a cool place. I want to live here." And they're like, "No, you don't. Like, you have a family. You go back to your family. You're not meant for hoodlum." And Draken gave him some good life advice for where he was at. And then they end up. There's a point where when it started, Matsuya's drawing a dragon on the wall, spray painting it, and Dragon's behind him eating. And then he gives him his food, and he ends up eating it all. And Dragon's like, "Okay, well, since you ate all my food, this dragon is now mine." And you kind of notice it's the one that's tattooed on his head. So we come into fruition where Matsuya is basically like, "I'm gonna become you, pretty much. Like, I'm gonna make sure I surpass you." And they end up getting both dragon tattoos on their head, which I didn't even know he had it on his head. And yeah, and so that's where we get the twin dragon thing and all that. And it was kind of like a all right moment where I'm like, "All right, cool. We're getting flashbacks. We're getting some recaps of what happens." And then they end up at New Year's, of course, shrine area, and he's there with Hinata. They're all there. Mitsuya, Hakaki, Yuza, all of them are there. And there was a moment where like Yuza is basically like admiring somebody, and her brother thinks it's, of course, Matsuya. And she's like, "He was pretty amazing, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, he was." And he's just like, "Yeah, I know." And she's over here daydreaming about Takemichi. And then you see a flashback of her talking to Taiju, and he's pretty much defeated, but he's like, "I try to change my brother to be stronger, but it didn't work with violence. And I understand that I can't atone for it, but hey, I'm gone. Don't worry about it." He goes, "But who is Takemichi? Like, he was able to change my brother and I wasn't." And so you kind of see like a respect level of it a bit. And then she's just sitting there smiling. And then her brother's like, "Wait, you're talking about Takemichi?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Whoa, he has a girl?" And she's like, "Yeah, don't worry. It could be a one-sided crush." And so for me, I'll get into that of how I took that because I still remember Mikey and stuff. But of course, they end up doing that. And then pretty much just ends up being New Year's, and they're all celebrating. And it kind of has like an end recap of New Year's. Toman's there, at least most of them are there. And then we get into our antagonist of the whole anime at the very end. He's on I want to say like a boat, and him and his right hand are talking. They're like, "Oh, I can't believe Takemichi, beat Black Dragon. Can't believe they did this." And they're just laughing. They're like, "Oh, well, there's still more to come." So we always know when Takemichi makes a move and Kasaki makes a move, and it's just a chess match, it seems like. And so we're on another cliffhanger, and I'm kind of excited for it. I guess, what did I miss, Andrew, in this fast recap that we're doing?
Nah, man, I think you got most of it. I think Taiju, one of the things Taiju said before he left, that he can't change. And he was like, "Man, I can't atone," but he goes, "I'm not willing to change either." So, that kind of shows where his attitude is. He's like, violence won't be everything. you know.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's cool, and all, and I like that, because man, I mean, I'm more about the violence and everything, so
Yeah.
bring it on, man. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a befitting ending for Taiju. I don't know how long until he shows back up in the anime, but it's kind of befitting for him, basically Black Dragon is out of the picture now. Basically what we said, Kasaki was bait. Is it Kasaki? What's his name?
The tag,
Dude
yeah,
with glasses.
Kasaki. Yeah.
It is Kasaki. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he's basically needed Black Dragon out of the way in order to do some dominance, gang dominance, so because Black Dragon, it was a huge step, so I think he's going to try to take over Black Dragon, rebuild it where it was. So that's my predictions on that. Yeah, Hinata, basically, she forgave Tamagichi. Like, the one thing, like, I'm with you, I didn't know that Draken and Mitsuya was like so close. Like, they I didn't even know there were twin dragons until like they said it right now.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I missed it in season one and I just didn't connect the dots or something like that. But when they said there were twin dragons, I was like, okay, like at the very end,
Yeah.
like when he said, "Oh, twin dragons are back," I'm like, okay, like I didn't know y'all were like chill like that, But yeah, we got into the mind of Mikey, with this whole brother's death and then Baji's death as well, and he's like, I wouldn't say reincarnation because that means taking it that
Yeah.
they have a big difference between Tamagichi and like his brother, but I think like a similarity,
Yeah.
similar to his brother, showing the characteristics of who he is, someone who doesn't give up, so he can find similarities in there, and that that brings like a brother to brother figure, like, hey man, I can have this as my brother because I know he's gonna have my back in the end, like
Yeah.
the way Draken said, like, hey, when the chips are down, you can always count on Tamagichi. And then the same thing with Matsuya said too at the very end. He was like, hey, y'all came in swung in and beat the day, but the real hero is Tamagichi because he stuck in there and fought,
Yeah.
as the punching bag of the group. So, like, he's just throw him in there, bro. He's gonna take all the punches for you, So, his defense shield is up by 100, right? Because he's like getting his ass whooped every single time. So, so but he did that whole full circle was really good. Like we now know how Mikey and Draken found out that they were at the church. So we thought it was divine intervention, and maybe it kind of was in a sense, like because Emma was like, "Hey, go get your brother and go get Tamagichi and bring him on over here." So kind of was, and I know in the manga it shows that their grandfather, Mikey's grandfather, is a martial artist. So it's kind of weird how his older brother didn't pick up fighting as well as Mikey did, because their grandfather's like literal martial artists, but different moms. And they all had the same dad, I believe. So it
Yeah.
was a kind of
Yeah.
little flip flop on that one. They all had the same dad, it's just different moms. So we know her probably where they got that rebellious spirit was from their dad, because hey, if you're gonna have different baby mamas, so I guess it's gonna be a little different in life for you, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, like this was I know you're gonna get into your points, so overall it was a good episode, man.
Yeah. Nah, there was a lot to it, even though it was a recap, flashback, I guess, episode for you. I guess we can grade it. I'll go first. I'm trying to be more strict on how I graded because I've looked at some of the stuff I've graded. I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay,
And
okay.
I'll give it a 3.5 only because I feel like it was interesting enough to see like what's happened, how they got to where they are. It gave me a little insight of how Takemichi has, moved up in ranks and why Mikey and Draken love him so much, even more. And it kind of moved their relationship as in another spot. But it also made me understand Draken, Mitsuya, that there's a connection there that I didn't know about. And then just the flashback of it all. I mean, yeah, we didn't get fighting. Yeah, we still don't know what's going on with Black Dragon. We're on a major cliffhanger. But I think all in all, for me, this was one of the better episodes out of just talking, where it was a lot of depth and a lot of like storytelling, where I was like, okay, it's doing a full circle, like you said, where we kind of are pieces we were missing are getting placed into where they need to be.
All right, man. So you're a little more generous than I
Yeah.
am. I'm a solid 3 to 3.2.
Yeah.
Um, it was a recap nobody asked for. It was a closure that nobody asked for. Like, was it necessary? Like, I guess you got to end episode 10, round off the number. So, was it a good episode? I don't think so, man. Like I'm totally disagreeing with you on this point, man.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it was a very good episode. It was unnecessary bloatware is what I like to call these episodes, unnecessary fillers. I think I even texted you when I was done. I was like, "Hey, this is a filler episode, man." Like cuz it was stuff that like we could have set up the next storyline a lot better. The next one, I don't know. I think these are playing all in succession, so I don't think we're gonna have a break in between.
Yeah.
But it's like at the same time, it's like this one was like, did we really need to go all the way to January? Did the time skip in there? No. Like, did we need to know this insight about Mikey thinking that Tamagichi's like his brother, like in spirit? Like we could have found that out in a quick flashback. Didn't need to take 10 minutes of the episode. Like like not Chifu, Matsuya and Draken's relationship. Like, was that necessary? Like, did we like now is the time you tell us at the very end of everything? Like, this is their relationship. Like, where did this come from, bro? Like honestly, where did the need of this relationship to come from?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what is Drac is like? Are they gonna attack his family? That's why we need to know this stuff. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it didn't sit well with me. I like the course animation. Of course, I like the story. It's pushing forward and everything, so that's good. Like we got some
Yeah.
context, which is good. But for me, it was a little like a filler bloatware episode. I didn't like it at all.
For me, you got to remember though, I also know the spoilers of what's happening next, so I know where this moment is leading to, and I
Okay,
think
all
that's
right.
why I have a bit more of like, okay, now if I didn't know what I knew, I would be like, okay, this is kind of but Mikey, I feel where Mikey's coming from is leading you directly into the next arc of it. There was a
Okay.
lot, yeah, and so that's the only part that I mean, I tried not to read the mangas, but when I'm looking on Twitter for stuff, people jump the gun and they're like, "Let's go."
Well, okay. So I
Yeah,
give you like when they showed Mikey's eyes when he was describing his brother and Baji and stuff like that, right? They
yeah,
were showing his eyes and he had that dead look in his eyes. Okay, of course, that's foreshadowing something in the future that's going to relate back, right? I
yeah,
get that.
yeah, yeah,
I've been watching anime long enough, I've been
yeah,
reading manga long enough to understand these contexts, right?
yeah,
Now, did it need to dedicate 20 minutes? Why they do this in anime? I have no idea to this day, right?
yeah,
Like I
bro,
don't,
yeah.
right? Like you don't
It's
need to
it's like
dedicate
anime
20
law, and
minutes. Yeah. it's like it's like when Naruto will recap and the entire arc that we've just watched,
mhm.
recap it in 2 episodes, right?
One
And you're
Piece does
like,
that. Yeah,
Lord Jesus, why are we
yeah,
watching 2 episodes worth of recap in there,
yeah,
right? Like they literally go through every fight scene, every conversation, and you're like, we just watched all this. So when you binge watch it and then watch that episode, you're like, skip. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So to me, this was like, you can skip this episode
You'll still know.
completely and still
Yeah,
be fine on
yeah,
episode 11. Like nothing that you saw here would probably affect you in episode 11 or 12 or
yeah,
13 or 14. So that's our I said 11, 12, 13, but you know what I'm saying. Like
yeah,
this is
yeah,
like in the 20s, but yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So I had to disagree. 1 star for the animation, great. 1 star for the characters that are I love. This is drawn beautifully, and the storyline is there. Another star for just being a really great anime, and then point two for this episode. That's where I'm leaving it. Point two right there. Like that's my feelings on it. The whorehouse was hilarious. I thought that was the only saving grace is when I forgot Draken lived in a
Yeah.
whorehouse. I totally forgot about that. And whenever he went back to the whorehouse, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, man. Like the coolest thing in the world, man. And she's like, hey, you got to talk to me about this guy. And he's like, what, like 12? Like 13,
Yeah.
and she's like, yeah, you can tell me later. It's like, what? Like, ain't that against the law? So, and they're playing like strip poker.
Yeah.
Or like I forgot what they're playing, like massages. I'm like,
Yeah.
Draken, that dude is a G, top G right there. Put a crown on his head, bro. That
Hmm.
that boy is top G, man. So but yeah, my rating 3.2, very generously. Actually, I can even drop that down to a 3 because I really didn't feel like this is a bloatware episode, and it felt like a bloatware filler episode, and not just past episode 10 altogether and just be fine on the next episode because really you didn't do anything to advance nothing in the storyline. Like you just basically just got a little more extra content and a little closure, and but it wasn't like anything they couldn't just say in the next episode and be like, hey, Emma, like a flashback real quick showing saying Emma told Mikey to go over there to find Tamagichi, and then like, oh dang, you connected 2 dots. That's how
Yeah.
he found him.
Yeah.
Like flashback of him and of Draken and Chief of Mitsuya sharing a bowl of bento, bento bowl,
Yeah.
and then be like, oh damn, friends.
But
you know?
there, I mean, I have to feel for the animator also. Like, I mean,
I
One
feel
Piece.
like he wrote a paycheck on
Well,
episode
yeah,
10.
I mean, it could be
Got
like
paid.
One Piece, and One Piece. I've been on a hiatus for 3 weeks with no anime coming out because they haven't finished it. So it's like they gave me some type of substance. One Piece is like I've been looking at Crunchyroll for 3 weeks and there's
Hey,
nothing.
One Piece, the dude said they were having mental
I
breakdowns.
know,
They
I
had to
know
take a
that,
break, man.
I
Give,
know that,
give the man 1,000 episode break, bro.
I
Like
know, I know that. But I was
they were
just
like,
like,
everyone's cracking over here. We need to
yeah,
take a
no,
break.
they got a lot. They got a lot,
Yeah,
man. And I mean,
yeah.
that's why I was like, all right, I'll just go watch some other stuff.
All
I was
right.
looking, there's only 13 episodes this season.
Oh, there is going to be only 13. I thought they
Yeah.
were playing them all succession, all 20 something
Well,
together.
unless it's gonna be like a break, maybe, and then maybe another one, because that's how they sometimes do it. Where
Yeah,
because this is like one arc, is from what I was
yeah.
understanding. So
The Christmas art. Yeah.
yeah, March 19th, March 26th, and then April 2nd, which is pre-resumed. So I'm guessing they're gonna start maybe a
In
small
April.
break, and then yeah, something they're gonna do something. That's what it looks like. And so maybe I don't know. They're gonna call it season 3, and they're going by
No.
arcs or how they're gonna do it. But
No, because they did that for season one. They
yeah,
split it up and it was longer. It
yeah,
was like I think they did one in April and one in October was the next time again. And they like went up to April and then took a huge break to October and then started back up, and it was all still season one.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think they're gonna call it season three or anything like that. I think it's gonna be season two.
All
You
right.
know what I'm saying? So yeah, and plus season one had 2 arcs in it as well.
Yeah.
So but yep. All right, man. Well, I mean, that's it for me, man. I mean, yeah, looking good, looking good.
No, I mean we're in a good spot. Let us know what I guess y'all thought of the episode. Let us know how you feel about fillers in anime. That's what I want to know too, because a lot of them have them. There's some that don't, surprisingly, and they're really good. Let us know what other animes you want us to talk about. The Blue Lock video will be coming out soon once I finally edit it. Make sure you check out our Vinland Saga episodes also. We're gonna be dropping that off also while this one drops. Let us know what other animes. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, of course, our YouTube right here. Like, subscribe, does wonders. We got everything Instagram. We're gonna be on Rumble, So you can check us out on different platforms. That's being it, man. Y'all have a great one, people. Keep watching anime, keep binging. Later.
Latest.